Night Goblins raid with efficiency. They swarm and ambush, cutting their foes apart. And today, guys, we're back with a showdown between the Greenskins, who shall be led by SKARSNIK, the Warlord of 8 Peaks. And it looks like we're going to be facing off against the Foul Vampire Coast, who shall be helmed by Count Noctilus. And it looks like he is going to be on foot, so no crow's nest, no peg legs for him, just going to be the old-fashioned. Now, as far as the build goes, it's pretty wide, of course, and going wide against Vampire Coast is pretty efficient. Bringing things of quality, so like really expensive targets, of course, gives them a little bit of an easy decision to make as it pertains to cannons and deck droppers and things like that. But King of the Dead typically plays a very different playstyle. I'm used to him bringing the Gallows Giant and things like that, so I brought a pretty wild spider, and I figured with SKARSNIK, I could give it tricksy traps. It would be unspottable, so even if he did have cannons or guns, it would be able to, close that distance a little bit quicker and maybe get some value. So here in the front line, it's going to be Biggins and Goblins. So Biggins, of course, quite good against Vampire Coast. They are a bit of a target for sure, but anti-large is good against Mourngulls, it's good against the animated Hulks, decent against the Colossus, and of course they have very good DPS and offensive stats, so if they have to fight deckhand mobs, they're going to kill them rather quickly. On top of that, we do have Night Goblins and the Unbreakable 8 Peak Loonies here in the center, and the secondary line is going to be a ton of archers. We have Orc Airboys, we do have one group of Savage Orc Airboys here in the middle, but for the most part, these guys are there to take care of handgunners, they're there to take care of bombers, things like that, and really they just do decent DPS. And what's cool about Orc Airboys is they actually do have okay AP values, so if they have to shoot crabs or you're dealing with like a crab rush type build, they're going to be quite solid. And even against crab rush though, we do also have Ragnarok Queen plus SKARSNIK, both of which are quite good in anti-large. So that's pretty much it for my build. We do have a couple of groups of Horse Goblin Spider Riders to kind of defend our flanks against scurvy dogs and things like that, but that's pretty much it. So for my opponent's front line, it's going to be deckhand mobs in the Tide of Skilled and bombers. So yeah, this is kind of his signature thing. And yeah, bombers, I mean, they can do quite a bit of damage against light armor for sure, but they do, of course, take a beating from archers and things like that. But if they can get into the ideal position, they can certainly do some work. He's got animated Hulks here in the back, and he does also have the Gallows Giant, Noctilus, and I think that's pretty much it. Gallows Giant can be quite scary. He's actually pretty good in melee combat. He has the Discourage ability, bonus for infantry, and yeah, the Discourage plus Terror is really strong. You can get some like huge routes against Greenskins with that. So let's get the show on the road, guys, and have some fun. So the main battle is underway here. You can see some archers on the flanks are going to be fending back those deck droppers who are going to be coming in to try and troll me in a moment, I'm sure. But the rest of the archers, the Orc Airboys and company, are just going to be shooting into zombie power gunnery mobs. And you can see I pull my front line back just to try and delay the time until the bombers can get in. And I think some scurvy dogs are also creeping in here, looking to creep and just working their way in. But for the most part, the bombers are taking some huge damage from the archers, but I can only avoid it for so long. Granted, maybe just like running back and kiting them would have been better. And my Spider Riders are going to be intercepting these scurvy dogs, but a second group's coming in. But Orc Airboys aren't slouches in combat. They'll be able to put up a decent fight. They're basically like Orc Boys, so I didn't feel as worried about protecting those guys. The Queen's going to be surging into the front line and summoning some spiders, so we're going to be getting those juicy spider summons as the Goblins and company surge in. Biggins are engaged in the front line, and a couple of the bombers are offline. So two of them have pretty much just gotten KO'd, just knocked out, just one punch right there. But the other ones are in okay shape. Bombers here, still going. And a lot of my front line, especially where I invested Goblins, are kind of getting crumped up a little bit. So if we take a big overhead look, the Gallows Giant in the back is basically just hiding from the Ragnarok Spider. But it looks like the Gallows Giant is going to be coming in now. And dogs over here on this side were intercepted by nasty Skulkers and put down. The Smoke Bomb, of course, is going to be super efficient at getting rid of them. So we've secured this pocket for the most part. SKARSNIK is being very defensive. I don't want him to get gooned or stomped on by the Gallows Giant. So I'm just kind of keeping him in the back, waiting so I can get him in those ideal engagements. I don't know if that was smart, but for the most part, we'll see how it goes. Also, guys, I forgot to use the wall. I'm not even going to make up an excuse. I just totally forgot to use it, but we'll be using it here in a minute, and hopefully that'll be helpful. So, Biggins in the front line are now fighting against, it looks like animated Hulks, which is a great engagement for the boys here, so they should be able to deal with those weird they're kind of like an H.P. Lovecraft looking thing, right? And it kind of like looks like it's from the Thing as well, some sort of a mutated creature of sorts. We're going to be dropping Vindictive Glare here on the Gallows Giant, doing some okay damage, and the Arachnarok Queen is going to be getting in there fighting as well. So now we have the anti-large beast fighting its ideal target, but it's not going to be as easy as it normally would be because Count Noctilus is nearby with halberds. They do also have the animated Hulks. We do get that wall. Again, pretty delayed, but there's still a lot of fighting going on, so it's not going to be a complete waste. So a pretty big mistake for sure. So here in the front, Orc Biggins going to be fighting with their anti-large, just karate chopping these animated Hulks, and on top of that, the Orc Archer line is doing a ton of damage. Granted, King has a lot of summons. Noctilus, of course, a lot of people forgot he does have a metric shit ton of summons, and he's going to be dropping those bad boys everywhere, chasing down my archers, and definitely doing a very good job targeting my forces. Ragnarok Queen's still trying to make contact with Gallows Giant, but it seems weird. She hasn't been able to make the best contact, and a lot of her attacks end up going into the zombies. A very nice Wraith Storm there from King. So at this point, we basically need to fall back and get away and maybe try and reorganize our engagements, because we do have troops coming back. We have archers, we have spiders. SKARSNIK's over here, and SKARSNIK is going to be darting over with Gobla. He's going to be trying to feast on the souls of these bloated corpses. I think he has a bloated corpse as well. Oh, here it comes. Perfect timing. Look at that. Right in the nick of time. Oh, okay. That was a little bit lackluster. I knew there was a bloated corpse somewhere in this replay, but I forgot about it. And it came in, and yeah, it just blew up like 1 or 2 goblins, which is classic. So SKARSNIK in the meantime is going to be attacking the Hulks, and he's going to be very good. Anti-large, armor piercing, poison. Granted, you don't really need the AP, but his bonus for his large is going to be super useful. So he should be able to kind of clean up a couple of those guys at the very least, and probably lead them to crumbling that much quicker. Balance power is very even. It's a very, very close game for sure. In the back, we've dealt with those Hulks, mostly summons coming in, but these bombers are just doing so much work against my nasty skulkers over here, up to 116 kills in those bad boys. So at this point, I'm like turning my archers to shoot. I probably should have just charged them, to be honest, but yeah, I guess I had some night goblins going in. I figured it would be enough. But the deck droppers here sitting overhead and just shooting into the orc airboys, actually doing quite a bit of damage. It's adding up, and you know the bombers coming in, the deck droppers doing damage. My orc airboys here on the side are certainly not looking too hot. Now in the back, my spider has come back here to help out with the bombers and some of these animated Hulks. I figured, hey, let's get some value and avoid Noctilus and the Flamethrower Colossus until we absolutely have to. But SKARSNIK did kind of get dragged into this fight, and I mean, he's pretty tanky. SKARSNIK has almost 5,000 HP, but the Discourage plus the Flamethrower and the bonus for his infantry, it's all going to add up, and SKARSNIK is starting to take some decent damage in that 2v1 fight. He has the support of Biggins, other troops like that, but his Prada is getting in there and doing a ton of damage against Gallows Giant. You can see it's actually getting quite low. Invocation of Nehek is going to be popped here by Count Noctilus to try and heal this bad boy up. But we got the big old Queenie coming back in. That's quite good. We got some goblins coming in, nasty skulkers, all kinds of stuff. But what's really actually quite scary for me in this situation is the deck droppers. I have a lot of low leadership units that can potentially be chased off the battlefield and harassed, so I really need to be careful here. The Night Goblin Shaman pops the Wand of Jet to get that Winds of Magic, so we're going to be continuing to drop that Vindictive Glare. Now, something I did notice over the course of the game is that the Glare, I needed other spells to cast. I figured that I would be cycling through it pretty quick, but yeah, I guess I probably should have brought another spell or two. Anyways, here you can see that SKARSNIK is going to be down here, just prison shanking against Noctilus, getting some damage. We have Biggin support, plus the Arachnoid Queen was able to do some really, really just good beatdown damage here on the Gallows Giant. And the Overwatch Fire coming in from the Night Goblin Shaman in the back has been good. Oh, not even Overwatch Fire, but he's been using the missile effects to, yeah, doing some pretty good damage here against Gallows Giant. So there are some summons for Vampire Coast. We got gunnery mobs, but I have a lot of like Haggard troops kind of coming back in the distance, but King's doing a really good job here with the deck choppers, chasing those guys off, making sure they don't come back. But finally, the dreaded bombers have been dealt with for the most part. They're crumbling. They have about 1,000 HP, so they should be going down here in a moment, but it's looking pretty good in the main fight. Queen's doing its thing. We got SKARSNIK dueling. I think he's going after Noctilus, but another missile attack coming in. Overcasted as well. And here comes the damage. Boom. Just a headshot right there. Negative 45 leadership right away. And the Queen should be able to chase down the Gallows Giant and potentially do some damage. So we'll see how that goes. SKARSNIK in the meantime, going to be falling back. Granted, that might have been a mistake because it kind of did put him in open field a little bit, but even still, I wanted to get away from Noctilus. Noctilus is a pretty scary duelist. Plus, he does also have the Invocation, so he can heal up. And yeah, SKARSNIK might be able to do some pretty good damage, and arguably I should have stayed and kept fighting there, but it's still a risky run, right? If Noctilus turns around and gets a couple good blows, plus some deck drop or focus fire, that could be game blouses. So the Gallows Giant has fallen to the Arachnoid Queen, and the Bounce of Power for the first time in a while has come back towards the middle. It's actually a really even game right now. You know, I was behind for quite some time, but we have kind of clawed our way back in. So from here, we're going to be using Spiderling Hatchlings to attack Noctilus and just try and wear him down. I figured, hey, let's just kind of outlast the summons, try and get SKARSNIK over here, maybe get some support from some of these archer units I have in this direction. So the archers are going to be waiting back in as the deck droppers continue to just unleash shallows of fire. But Noctilus is going to tank this really well. He's got incredible melee defense at 60. So pretty much these troops aren't going to do any damage. Like the rate of damage he's taking from these guys, he's outscaling that with his hunger, and I'm pretty sure he still has enough for another invocation or summon. So very, very scary stuff. So I'm going to be going in with the Queen. I figure some cycle charging could be good to try and burn down Noctilus. So we get in there, we try and get some damage. The Queen will drop maybe one attack or so, and then we're going to pull back because we don't want to stay in sustained combat. Noctilus is going to be able to get his halberd and do some really good damage. So we are ahead on the bounce power. You can see actually it's pretty distinct now. For the first time we're like clearly ahead, but Noctilus with another summon is going to be super clutch. The Overcasted Gunnery Mob Summon, of course, does some of the guns, and those guys are going to turn and put some DPS probably into the Arachnoid Queen, and hey, I mean, even though they lack AP, it still adds up for sure. And if you put them in guard mode, that's going to be good. And SKARSNIK is a little bit naked and isolated here, so he's going to be trying to run, and this was the first time I learned that a Goblin and a Squig are actually slower than Count Noctilus. I mean, he's poisoned right now, but once the poison wears off, he's faster than SKARSNIK, which seems a little bit, I mean, Goblins, I feel like they're quicker in general, right? But let's take a look here. So these Biggins have 31 speed. Do I have any goblins left? No, not really. I'm trying to like look at some for measurement. Yeah, I was really surprised to find out that Noctilus was actually faster. As such, I dropped him summons. I charged him with the Arachnoid Spider because again, if I lose SKARSNIK, it's going to be game blouser. So at that point, we fall back. So up in the sky, Jack Droppers are pretty low on ammo, but he's actually going to be diving over here with the group that's out of ammo. So SKARSNIK's going to be coming, trying to help heal these guys, and basically the Arachnoid Spider's just going to be in here trying to get some damage on Count Noctilus, but really like 4 or 5 attacks from the Spider, we haven't hit him once. Like, it's just been brutal. He's been tanking this like an absolute champion. So what I probably should do, though, is kite. So pull back the Arachnoid Queen, kite away, and just use its missile attacks to kind of wear down these troops, because the bows on the back actually do some okay damage. In the meantime, summons are disappearing for both of us. Spider hatchlings are going to be disappearing here in a moment. The gunnery mob as well is going to be going. I do accidentally blow myself up with an overcast, and it looks like the spell isn't even going to go off. So I had a spell procced right there, and it was weird. Like, I overcasted it, he damaged himself, and I was expecting it to go off and blast Noctilus in the face, but it just didn't go off, which was huge because I really needed that. Noctilus is just an absolute tank. SKARSNIK misses again. The Queen is actually finally able to hit Noctilus right there, which is quite good. And a big alpha strike coming in from all the deck droppers, so the Orc Airboys are going to be turning and shooting however they can. And we're just in a pit fight here, guys, just a grindy old battle. And the Arachnarok Spider doing its best. Now, though Noctilus is down to 1600, we've gotten some pretty good DPS there. SKARSNIK at 2100. The gunnery mobs with some really good last minute value shooting in. I mean, man, that is huge. We're actually able to get a bunch of DPS here on the Queen, putting her down to 1500. And yeah, the summons and the bats are actually doing a really good job. Now, the Orc Airboys, like I said, basically Orc Boys are able to fight back to relative efficiency against these guys, but just kind of the numbers of the bats is too much for the Orc Airboys to handle. And now it's looking a little bit scary as Noctilus is able to cleave through. Our Goblin does come back in and get another Vindictive Glare, which is quite good. But the bats are just everywhere, and Greenskins, again, have not the best leadership. So if you're able to kind of rear charge them, despite the fact that they may be able to win that fight, they're probably going to turn and run. So the Arachnarok Queen is at 1500 as well, and a really good invocation of Nehek there actually pulls the balance of power back. So that invocation absolutely game-saving here, as he's able to heal that guy back up to a pretty dangerous level. He was down to about 1200 HP, so the Hunger plus invocation of Nehek able to get him to a really, really stable status. So SKARSNIK's going to be fighting here. Another Vindictive Glare is going to be coming down, but King, of course, a very savvy player, is going to be sending over his deck droppers. So really good usage of those guys this game. And you can see SKARSNIK's going to be trying his best, but there's a lot of angry bats here. Some of them are crumbling. You can see they got 6 models left. We do have some Spiderling summons, I think. I think that might have been the last one. I can't quite remember. But, man, Noctilus just absolutely giving the business to that Arachnarok Queen. So suddenly, guys, we're in a bit of a precarious situation. So SKARSNIK's going to be running here, scurrying for his life. And I was like, okay, he's faster. Let's kite. If we can kite, we can shoot him with a Vindictive Glare. We can get back in the game. But you know what? He's got 34 speed against 38. I mean, I guess vampires are super quick. They're like supernatural beings, so it makes sense. But I would expect SKARSNIK to be able to, you know, maybe hop on top of Goblin and get away. But alas, that's not going to be the case. And that's going to be game. So very well played to King. That was a super fun game. We both brought some very strange stuff, like SKARSNIK, obviously not the most competitive pick, but neither are Bloated Corpses and Animated Hulk. So it certainly bounced out quite well and made for a really good game. But yeah, as far as the build goes, I mean, SKARSNIK, I feel like he's not bad here. He's tough to snipe. He does have anti-large and armor piercing, so that's pretty good against like some of the bigger threats like crab builds. So arguably, maybe he's pretty good. Yeah, although Wurzog, of course, getting the Bonewood Staff is really, really strong as well. Yeah, I mean, there's a multitude of ways to go about it. And honestly, SKARSNIK wasn't bad. Like, I was quite happy with his performance. He was able to survive and do some good anti-large. But yeah, there was a couple things in the game that really cost it for me. The delayed WoW was really bad because I would have been able to burn down the front line much faster had I popped that. The second thing is I probably should have kited back, like instead of committing to those fights, like just kept tar pitting Noctilus, using the spider to kite and its missiles on the back and just blasting the bats and things like that would have been smart. Because then if Noctilus is isolated and I can just pretty much just blast him with Vindictive Glares and tank him down. So a couple big mistakes for sure. But again, that's part of the game. It happens. It's just that everyone makes mistakes. So yeah, King played a super great game. Despite losing 2 bombers like instantly, he got really good value from the third group, which was able to just do work. I mean, he plowed through my guys with those. He was able to take apart my whole archer formation over there to put them down, which really probably opened up his late game win, I think. On top of that, his hound play was pretty good. He was able to get in there and pressure my orc boys. Granted, we did fend off the hounds efficiently, but he still got value there. And yeah, the deck droppers were... I think there's a bit of a thing for these guys. I think deck droppers, the regular ones, are actually pretty cost effective. Like for 450, you're basically getting fellbats that can do some good DPS, and it's not so much like the handgunners are that much more expensive, right? But these guys do pretty good damage and have good value. I think that, yeah, maybe that's something about the evolving metagame of the Vampire Coast. So very well played to King. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this glorious Greenskin versus Vampire Coast showdown, and we will see you guys on the other side. Take care.